What is it that you actually want with your life? Do you know? Have you worked it out yet? See, sadly, a lot of people don't know. They have no clue what they want with their life, from their life. They're just aimlessly going through life, going through the motions, going to their job, doing the things that they've done previously, and not aiming at anything. And the problem with that is when you aim at nothing, what do you get? You get nothing. And so the opportunity is that we can all achieve whatever it is that we want from our life, but we just need to be very clear on what it is that we actually want. See, it's like a GPS. So if you were going to a new destination, you wouldn't just type in the suburb or the city and hope that miraculously you ended up at that particular destination. It just doesn't work that way. What you would do is you'd specifically type in the address, 123 ABC Street in the suburb, and the GPS would then guide you and direct you to that particular destination. It would navigate through all the obstacles, and it would provide you with that direction that you require to end up at the destination that you wanted to end up at. So why don't we do that with our life? Why don't we get clear on what we want so that we can have our own GPS, being our mind, take us to where we want to get to? Well, the answer is that our brains are designed to keep us safe. The brain doesn't like to be stretched and challenged and taken into new places and uncomfortable situations. It would prefer that we stayed safe. So your brain tells you a whole range of stories. It'll tell you that you're too old to start. It'll say to you that you don't have the ability or the skills to be able to achieve whatever it is that you want to achieve. It's talking you out of it. It'll create a whole lot of fear. Yeah, whether that be fear of failure, fear of criticism of other people. You'll be worried about what other people say if you do something different, if you go after that goal or that dream or that desire that you've got for your life. And so that's the opportunity. The opportunity is to recognize that your brain is going to try and keep you safe and tell you stories, but your goal needs to be a whole lot bigger than that. See, for me back in 2015, when I started on my journey, when I found myself in a dark space in the start of 2015, overweight, didn't have a great marriage, average father, worked a lot, spent a lot of time away from home, didn't have the money that I wanted or thought I would have at that stage in my life. I needed to do something about it. And what I did is I read a book, and this is the book. It's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. And in this book, there's a chapter which talks about begin with the end in mind. And in the chapter, what he talks about is your eulogy. He talks about the end of your life and what will people say about you at the end of your life. And I remember when the first time I read this book, I struggled with the concept, and I put the book down and I left it for a week or two. But then I picked the book up again and I read it again and I reread it, and I started to understand the point that he was actually trying to make. And the point is, what's your legacy? We all get one shot at this life. How do you want to be remembered? What are the things that you want to have achieved? What is the mark that you want to leave on this world, on this earth? Because what Covey talks about is your eulogy. And I thought, well, what would my eulogy be? It'd be, he's an average husband, an average father. He works a lot, spends a lot of time away from home, hence that's why he's an average husband and father. Doesn't have the wealth for all the effort that he's putting in his job, is overweight, and generally just miserable. And I thought, well, that's crap. That's a terrible, terrible eulogy, a terrible mark to leave on this world. It was a bit of a jolt for me. And so I needed to take responsibility and make the change. And so that's what I'm encouraging all of you to do, is that now is the time to make that change. And I'm going to take you through some tips and some tricks as to how you can do it. But the first thing is to start with the end in mind. What is it that you actually want? And so when you work out what you want, we need to then shape that into a SMART goal. Now, SMART is an acronym for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timed. So I take, for example, the goal of wanting to make a bit of extra money on eBay. Is that a smart goal? Of course it's not. But what if I said to you that I wanted to make $5,000 profit on eBay by buying goods through garage sales, selling them on eBay, and doing this over a period of 6 months? All of a sudden, that goal becomes a whole lot smarter. Is it specific? Yeah, it is, because we're talking about we're going to buy things from a garage sale and sell them on eBay. Is it measurable? Yes, it is, because we want to make $5,000 in profit. Is it achievable? Absolutely. I know plenty of people are using a similar strategy. And if you don't believe me, go on to the internet, Google it up, and you'll see for yourself. There's an enormous number of people who have already done this, and they are leaving behind the blueprint for you to follow. Is it relevant? Is it relevant to where you want to head, what you want in your life? And the answer is yes, and I'm going to get more into that in a moment. And the last one is T for timed. Is it time-bound? And the answer is yes, it is, because we want to do that within a 6-month time frame. And so that's what smart goal setting is all about. But the key here is to create a whole lot of milestones, but work back from that particular goal. So let me give you the example with the eBay. So we're saying that in 6 months, we want to have achieved $5,000 by selling goods on eBay. So at the 3-month mark, what is the milestone? Now, it doesn't need to be linear. So by that I mean, 3 months is half of 6 months. Therefore, 2,500 is half of 5,000. But we don't need to have achieved 2,500 by the halfway mark to still be hitting our goal. It does not need to be linear. And the reason is that you could be spending a whole lot of time front-ending your particular goal achievement by doing research and buying goods to then sell on eBay, etc. So you're creating systems and processes where you bubble along at the start, and then all of a sudden you exponentially grow towards the end, so you still achieve the same outcome. Now, you could potentially get a linear outcome, but I'm just suggesting that it might not necessarily be the case. But what are the things that you need to have achieved at the 3-month mark? Yeah, so think about those. And it could be that you want to have achieved $1,000 in profit. Then bring that back to the 1-month mark. What is the milestone or milestones that you need to have achieved at the 1-month mark? Right, so I dare say that you would need to have bought a number of items. So you would have need to work out how you're sourcing the goods that you're going to sell. You will well and truly need to have a system for selling. How can you do it efficiently through eBay? If you bring that 1 month back to 2 weeks, what are you going to do? In the next 2 weeks from now, you may never have sold on eBay before. So you might need to research a whole range of things. You might need to work out what are the numbers that you need in order to achieve your goal. So what I mean by that is that if you've got a goal of $5,000 in 6 months, then let's work out what type of products we want to be purchasing. What is the profit that we need from the product? So for example, if we want to purchase bigger items that deliver $100 in profit, then that means that in 6 months we will need to have sold 50 of those. Yeah, 50 times 100 is $5,000. Alternatively, if we're going to purchase smaller products and we need to have a $10 profit, then we need to have bought and sold 500 of those. So the strategy will be different based on what your preference is, but you need to think that through down to that level of detail, that if I want to achieve $5,000 in profit, then I need to break it right down to each individual item and how many of those I need to sell. So if I go back to the bigger item of $100 in profit per item times 50 items, that effectively means that over a 6-month period, I need to have sold 2 per week. On average, again, it's not linear, but just on average, I need to have sold 2 per week. Now, you might say to yourself, well, I'm going to sell 0 in the first 4 weeks because I'm researching, getting my systems, my processes right. But then what you say is then for the next, 20 odd weeks, I need to sell 2.5 items per week in order to achieve my objective. Yeah, so just, you need to think through what are the numbers that you need to do, and you break it down into the smallest increment so that you know then exactly where you're headed so you can start to move forward. So that's the what, right? That's the goal setting, that's the milestones. The other key element in starting with the end in mind is understanding why it is that you're doing what you're doing. Why is it important to you that you go and sell things on eBay? Or why is it important that you go and learn a new language, start a new career, start a business, lose weight, etc.? And I can assure you that your why is not external to you. So it's not the external things. People will say, well, I want to make more money. I get that, but why is that important to you? And you need to get into what is the feeling and emotion that's connected to the what. So your why is internal. So my why back in 2015 was to regain my happiness by spending more time with my family. As I mentioned, I wasn't happy. I was spending time away from my family due to work commitments, due to business travel. And I needed to get back home with them. And that was going to create this enormous amount of happiness inside of me to be able to do that. And so that was my why that kept pulling me forward, because I had plenty of challenging moments on my journey, and I still do today. And you will have the same. There will be an enormous number of obstacles that you're going to need to overcome and face head on. See, anyone can be a champion when things are going well, but it's when you get down into the troughs, it's that you need to understand what is that thing that's going to pull you forward to take you towards the objective that you've got for yourself. So you need to be very clear on what is your why, what's your reason for being, for what purpose? For what purpose are you doing this? For what purpose are you challenging yourself regularly, overcoming fears, breaking through limiting beliefs? Remember, because your brain would much rather you stay safe. So going through a whole lot of stuff on this video, so I just want to round it all out. So the first thing we do is, in order to move forward, you want to start with the end in mind. What does the end look like? Then we want to shape that into a smart objective setting or SMART goal. Remember, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timed. We then want to take that goal and break that down into bite-sized chunks. Break it down into milestones. Start with the end, start with that goal, and bring it all the way back to today. Keep halving that time. If it's 1 year, go to 6 months, 3 months, etc. If it's 3 months, go to 1 month, go to 2 weeks, go to 1 week, go to this week, go to tomorrow, go to today. Bring it all the way back to now with your action steps and your milestones. And then get deeply connected with why is it that you want to do this in the first place. That is absolutely critical to you achieving your goals, because I see so many people start something and stop because it gets a bit hard. And when I see that happen, it demonstrates to me that they're not deeply connected with that why are they doing it. And that why is not external, it's internal. It's not money, it's not houses, it's not cars, it's the emotion that's going to drive you forward. And my last bit of advice is be patient, particularly early on. Spend the time up front building that foundation. I know you want to get into it. I know you want to just get started and get going, but go slow to go fast. It's the old adage of the hare and the tortoise. Yeah, so don't shoot out of the gates and go quickly. Take the time. Research what you want to do. Put your systems in place. Understand what your targets are. Remember we talked about breaking those goals down into small, bite-sized chunks. Do all your research, all your foundation work early on. So then once you get going, you can really accelerate your outcomes and your results will follow.